Back here on Titans Talk, phone line still open, 737-7767, the number. And we go back to the phones and say hello to Danny. Danny, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
Good.
Hey, I just want to agree with that last caller. I'd like to see Tannehill sort of get out of that pocket and maybe throw, because he had a lot of them batted down yesterday and also in the Texas game. He's got good legs on him, and just give me your input on that, please.
Yeah, and I think part of that's, too, the inability to stretch the field there, Danny, is they're running so many short routes and timing routes with these different wide receivers here that if you're a defensive lineman, your thought isn't as much about getting to the quarterback in terms of a sack anymore. It's about getting your hands up and disrupting the pocket. And so on some of these timing routes as a defensive end, you're taking one step, you're kind of hitting your lineman, and you're putting the hands up, and they've been able to get their hands on some balls there. So, again, the more they can open up the playbook, because they have the personnel who, one, knows the playbook, and two, can execute the playbook at a high level, the better off Tannehill's going to look, the better off this offense is going to look. But I agree. In the moments right now, if they have to play another game severely shorthanded like that, and we know A.J. Brown's not going to be back for the game against Jacksonville, with that being the case, you know you're going to be shorthanded somewhat. I think getting Tannehill on the edge a little bit more where he has the ability to run. Not that he has to do it all the time. Not that passing isn't the first option. But to get him out there where he has the ability to run a little bit more can be another weapon for this team. I think it was early this season against the Colts. He ran for a career high, and they had several designed runs in that game, and he was very effective. I think they can get back to that and use that again as long as they need to, frankly. Because at the moment, Ryan Tannehill looks to be about the most healthy guy on the team, even as he's battling through everything with the people around him. Go to line 2, say hello to Bradley. Bradley, good evening and welcome to Titans Talk.
Ryan Tannehill looks to be about the most healthy guy on the team, even as he's battling through everything with the people
Hey, Bradley, do me a favor, turn your TV down and talk to us here on the phone.
Hey, bud, how you doing?
Good.
I just wanted to say that the running game looked really good yesterday. The first drop was really the only flub, and then there was a great play on the end. But I think with all these games going in the bye, if these guys can just hang on to the ball, they looked real good. There was just a couple mistakes, got them, and then they got desperate, and he threw it, and the tip up in the end zone, and they were in the game even with all those mistakes. But I just think this running game looks like it has some hope. And I don't know if you agree, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
I mean, anytime you can run for 270 yards in an NFL game, your running game has some hope. So I think they definitely have something to hang their hat on with that. And this offensive line, if they play like they did yesterday, the Titans can beat a lot of teams. And that is going to have to be the recipe here over the next few weeks. And, oh, by the way, it's getting colder. You're going to have more weather games like that. It's going to be more difficult to have some of the flashy plays in the passing game, you figure. And this is where the Titans line has been at its best over the last few years. Guess what? It looked like it was at its best yesterday. That was the one unit on the team that I think you'll walk away from the game and say, gosh, those guys were excellent all game long. And they were. They were really, really good. And if they can continue to play like that, I don't care if it's Dontrell Hilliard, I don't care if it's Deontay Foreman, I don't care if it's Jeremy McNichols, or when Derrick Henry maybe can come back at some point, the Titans are going to be a beast to deal with in the running game because those guys set the tempo up front. So, yes, if they can continue to do that, they're going to have more days where they can really run the football at people. And I don't think every defense is the Patriots. So you got to deal with that. But I think it was a very, very encouraging sign yesterday, something that the Titans can build on because they had been working on it ever since Henry had left. And it had taken a little bit. And yesterday they kind of settled in and said, all right, the carries are going to two guys. They're going to Hilliard and they're going to Foreman. And we're going to work with that. And guess what? Both guys went over 100 yards. That was pretty impressive. Sneak another call in here. Say hello to Wayne. Wayne, good evening.
Yeah, thank you for taking the call, Steve. The thing with me, I'm trying to figure out now, when they stack that box, what do you think they could do? Because when they stack that box, you don't know who coming to Tannehill for a rush or what. And there's another thing, I feel like Julio Jones was a main asset they was holding against these teams. Now that he's gone, that is a big, big hole in the offense. Those young running backs yesterday, they were doing good, but you know people going to try to strip the ball, so our offensive coordinators just talking to them before they went out there, hey, hang on to the ball, put a special emphasis on it, because those teams are pros, and these young guys, they want to run fast and get all they can in the yardage, but then they got the grip open that ball like vice grips, because they're going to get it or either go down, get all the yards you can, just go down.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you about that because for perspective, I think they were holding in there real good at the moment. They didn't get really a lot of pass rushes, but they were holding in there real good. I was hoping, I don't like to see them go up and I hate to see them lose against New England. I really hate that.
Yeah.
So if you could comment on that, help me out here.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Wayne. Thanks for the call. Look, everybody hates to see them lose, especially in the manner they lost. And when you talk about those running backs holding on to the football, they were pretty good in tight spaces. But what you got to do is when you get down the field, when you're breaking free from people, you have to have awareness. You have to know where people were. Hilliard had broken through the line. He was getting to the second level, and somebody came and pops it out. You got to be sound with the football and tucking it away in those situations. And the Foreman one's really inexcusable because that's a huge gain. It was a 34-yard gain. He basically had them in scoring position for at least a field goal. If he just goes down there and it gets poked out from behind. Those are the types of things you absolutely have to avoid, because here's the other thing that we recognize now with this Titans team given the injuries. There was a point early in the season where they could make a mistake and overcome it because Derrick Henry could bust off a 60-yard run, or A.J. Brown could make a huge play in the passing game, or the defense stepped up, did whatever. There was a point where this team was good enough to overcome the mistakes. That margin for error is gone. They would love to see the defense step up a little bit, all that. But the margin for error with the mistakes is gone. As long as they're fielding a roster that looked like it did yesterday, they have to be near perfect. They cannot afford the catastrophic mistakes, the turnovers, the penalties, the special teams woes, and beat just about anybody. And we've seen that the last 2 weeks. The Titans have a schedule that they can beat multiple teams left, even with the roster they've trotted out there the last 2 weeks. But they've got to play better than they played the last 2 weeks to do it. Take another break. We'll be back after this.